going on, Star Rail gamers? Welcome back to the channel, and I think I might have caused just maybe a dash of controversy. Now let's talk about Yanqing and why I didn't put him in the S tier. There's gonna be a couple of things here, and the first and foremost, partially my fault. I went back and watched it, and during editing, his portion was getting a little long, and I accidentally cut out some of the nice things that I said about him. I did put him in like the A tier, A plus tier category, just not in the S tier. I don't know, when someone's favorite character doesn't get slammed in S tier right away, we're having a bad time. So let me explain myself here. The stuff that I cut out, number one of the video, is how easy he is to build. I've been talking to my friends. I've been naming him the free-to-play king of Honkai Star Rail, jokingly, but also true as well, because, well, if you look at his ultimate here, he's gonna get 60% free crit rate. This is all the time. So it's going to make him very easy to build for basically anyone. Very low investment if you're doing the saving strategy that I'm a big advocate of, which is don't be farming new relics. Don't try to be spending your energy trying to get new gear for your characters right away. Save that stuff, save your fuel, save your Trailblaze power, so you can get 5-star stuff. And if you're doing that, then he's gonna be insane for you, especially early on, because he's gonna have all of this crit, and it's gonna be a very good time. You're gonna be able to put like a crit damage body on him if you find one randomly from doing, you know, different events and quests out in Star Rail. And this is a big deal. I really like him for that reason, and it's partially why he got jetted right up into A tier. You have to have him there at least in the A to A plus tier because of how easy he is to build and how well he can scale with limited amounts of gear, or not even limited, but like the kind of gear that you don't need to try to min max on and throw away 5 refreshes a day for a character like this. He's also a very strong single target damage dealer, which I did have in there. However, why didn't I put him in the actual S tier category? So if you go back and you watch that video, if you've seen the tier list video, you've dashed around the different characters, you might notice that my explanations for a lot of stuff are in the way of I rate characters very highly the more flexible that they are. So if your characters can be an excellent shield breaker, work well with damage over time effects and agility teams for either like Sampo, or maybe in the simulated universe, or maybe you're very good at, you know, facilitating energy gain and skill point gain for your teammates and team members, characters like Bronya, Ting Yun, characters like Asta, who can do an attack buff and a speed buff and shield break all at the same time and have a fire damage over time effect. Those are the characters that I like the most, and I rate those characters much more highly because of how flexible that they are. Our boy Yanqing over here basically has, well, 2 jobs. One job is don't get hits. The other job is do as much single target damage as possible, which is a great thing to do. Now, the other thing about Yanqing is that he's not that flexible either as an AoE damage dealer, because he's pretty much just single target, but he's a very greedy boy. His ultimate costs 140 energy, so you're going to need to facilitate this game plan some way. You have to build an entire team around Yanqing to make him shine. Doesn't make him bad, it just makes him less flexible for me. So you need to have this ultimate ready to rock and roll, because it's where he's going to be getting a lot of his damage from. The other damage that he's going to get from is from his skill, which is going to give you the Soul Steel Sync for 1 turn, which turns on his talent, which gives you a little bit more crit rate, which is cool, and then also gives you a little bit more crit damage as well. The multiplier for this actually is pretty low for a skill that uses a skill point. It's lower than someone like Dan Hung's, and Dan also has like a speed down associated with his skill. Yanqing's using this skill to build 30 energy towards his ultimate of 140 cost, but also mainly here to activate the Soul Steel Sync, so you can really get in here with his passive, which gives you extra crit rate, extra crit damage, and then it gives you a fixed chance to perform a follow-up attack, which is very nice. It's going to do a little bit of bonus damage. The 25% here at level 1 talent, but this is going to scale up. And then it's also going to give you the ability to freeze an enemy, and this has a base chance, which is nice because later on, once you start getting better gear, instead of needing all this crit chance and stuff, you can build attack and crit damage, also build effect rate on him, so you can start making sure that, well, when you do get this proc, you're freezing enemies much more consistently, especially when we start running into enemies that have effect rate resist. So that's really what his skill is for, And also the big thing here is on the talent, if you take damage, not if you get hit, but if you take damage, you're going to lose the Soul Steel Sync. And this can lead to him being a very low skill efficiency character. Every time you get hit, your shield breaks, he takes damage, you're going to lose your passive, you're going to lose your talent ability, you're going to need to use another skill point on him to make sure you have the Soul Steel Sync effect again, so you have it for your basic attack, so you can conserve some skill points there. Then if you're using a basic attack, you're not doing as much damage because the multiplier is lower, you're building a lower amount of energy, it's going to take you longer to build your ultimate, and you're really hoping that this fixed chance procs on the basic so your DPS doesn't go right into the gutter. If you want to make sure you're doing more damage overall with him, you're going to be using your skill points on Yanqing, who has a fairly low skill multiplier compared to a lot of other damage dealers in Honkai Star Rail. So the ways to alleviate this is you're going to need some of the other characters that I have a little bit above him in the tier list to bring up this inefficiency that he has. Characters like Bronya to push him up again so he can use a basic attack again to build more energy right after he goes. Or you can build him up again with Bronya, he gets hit, push him up, reactivate the Soul Steel Sync again. He really needs some of these more efficient characters to offset how inefficient that he can be, which is why I had him a little bit lower than those characters, because you kind of need an entire team built around him, and we haven't even covered the second reason for that yet. And obviously you guys already know you need to have someone that can shield him, protect him from damage. So we're looking at characters that are shielders like March 7th with the big shield. If you have Jeopard, he's actually pretty great with the giant shield that you can get from his ultimate, because it just is a giant AoE big shield for your whole party. And Jeopard actually is a little bit better than March 7th because March's shield is going to taunt enemies to Yanqing, and Yanqing doesn't want to get hit. In fact, he has the ability to actually reduce his chances to be targeted with Soul Steel Sync. So if you have someone like a preservation character like Jeopard who can put a giant shield on and also taunt them over to the other side of the battlefield, that's awesome. But now we're getting into the characters that you need multiple 5 stars, multiple 4 stars, all on the same team to facilitate this gameplay. And he's a much more narrow character in that way. So he starts off very strong, and he is a very good character, but I just don't think he's as flexible as some of the other ones are in gameplay styles. And this doesn't even go into those situations. You've probably been in it already yourself before with other characters where you're just a little bit off your burst or your ultimate on your DPS character, and then you get hit. Boom, 10 last energy you need, immediate ultimate. Get in there, do damage, get your turn right afterwards, and start building ultimate gauge again. If you're using Yanqing, you could do that. You get hits, you take damage, you build up that ultimate meter, but you've taken damage, you lose the Soul Steel Sync effect, and you want to be efficient with your ultimate to energy gain ratio. So you want to use your ultimate first and then your skill after. But if you do that with Yanqing, you're using your ultimate without your Soul Steel Sync again. So if you want your ultimate with Soul Steel Sync, you're using another skill point. Even though you're at full energy, you're throwing away 30 energy just so you get the big extra crit damage bonus on his ultimate gain. So he's not as flexible as a lot of other characters are in the way that you can play him and in the random RNG elements that can pop up in gameplay for you. So even though you can't account for everything there, they are going to happen. The game's not just a DPS simulator against a test dummy where the enemies don't try to attack anybody, they don't do AoEs, they don't have crowd control, they don't do all of these things. And so I was accounting for those type of scenarios on a character like Yanqing because he wants to be played in a very particular way with a very particular team. And a lot of the times the game is going to be set up to try to counter that as much as possible. Not saying that you can't do it, but he's not as flexible, in my opinion, as some of the other options are. And so instead of him being S+ tier best character in the game, I knocked him down to like AA+. He's still a fantastic character, but I seem to have made a lot of people mad with that. Hopefully this explanation helps clear those that little water up a little bit there, because I did make a big boo-boo and I didn't talk about how awesome he is to build. That got cut out because the video was already going 40 something minutes at that point, and I was like, I need to snip this up. Boom, is at the end of the video. T was doing them all in alphabetical order. So unfortunately, I didn't talk about how easy he is to build. I don't think anyway. I didn't see it when I rewatched it in that video, guys. So good looking out there, community. That's what it's all about. And until then, I'll see you in the next one.